Welcome back to the Bald Eagle 242 YouTube channel. Today I've got a Craftsman YTS 3000 that has a steering issue. The wheel on the other side is actually pointing straight right now, and as you can see, this one is really hard cut to the right. What happens on these things is the linkage down here, this gets bent and it causes the wheel to pull out, generally from somebody hitting something with the wheel here. This side is even worse. You can see here how that is bent down really bad. I'm going to show you guys how to straighten this out today. I'll show you some tips to kind of make these things last a little bit longer too, with some parts you can add to them. One thing I always find amusing on these things is they advertise them as a cast iron heavy duty front end, and then they basically put a piece of stamped sheet metal on here for the steering linkage for the connection to the wheel. But anyway, we're gonna get this thing apart here, get this straightened up, hopefully get this thing running in the right direction again. First thing I'll do is go ahead and pull these caps off. We'll disconnect the end links here, and then I'm gonna pull this whole piece out here where we can get to this a little bit easier and get this straightened out. First thing I'll do is go ahead and take the wheels off. It's easy just to grab these little rubber caps and just pull them off of there. You can generally do that without damaging them. And you can just take a flat screwdriver here and just pry this little clip off. Couple washers on here, and pay attention to how these go on because that keeps from wearing your clip out. You can just pull that wheel off of there. Next thing you want to do is take your tie rod end link loose. This one is a 1/2 inch on the top and a 9/16 on the bottom. You have to hold the top one just to keep it from spinning, and then take the nut off the bottom. Once you get that nut and the lock washer off, just pull that out of there. I'll put my nut and washer back on here just so I don't lose it. I don't think anything's bent on this. You know, if you have a piece here bent, you'll want to kind of replace or straighten that too, but I don't think that one's bent. There's another clip up here, just like the one on the wheel. When you pull this out, this piece is going to fall out too, so have your hand on it, be ready to catch it. And that'll drop right down out of there. That way we can get this over on the bench and get it straightened up. Alright, once I get that off the mower, I'll clamp this in here right at this bend, put it in a vise, tighten this down pretty tight. What this will do is straighten this up if this is bent here. So what I'll do is I'll take a big pole. This is the part that goes up into the mower. And I want to make this so this bar here is straight with this piece here. So I'm going to bend this down. And I may have to put this in and out a couple times to make sure, because there's no way to adjust the alignment once it's really on the mower. But that'll get it pretty straight. This bar's coming out. I'm going to pull the other side. The other side's actually bent worse than this side. But that should get that one pretty close to where it needs to be. So this piece here, the flat part of this, is at a 90-degree angle to the part that goes up in the mower. And that should get us pretty straight. Right, when you go to put this back in here, I know that's upside down on camera, but there is an R on here for right, and the other one has an L on it for left. They'll only work on one side, so make sure you get that right. There is a washer here on the bottom, so make sure that's on there. There's also a, there's bushings in here. Make sure those are not worn. These are replaceable too. Slide your shaft back up through both of the bushings. There's a washer that goes on top, and then your clip to hold everything together again. And like I said, I may have to take this apart a couple times to get this lined up correctly, but just push that back on there. Use a pair of pliers if you can't get that on there with your fingers. All right, and then we'll hook our linkage rod up here, drop that down through the hole there. And I'm gonna just loosely put the nut back on here because, like I said, I don't know how straight this is gonna be. Should be pretty close. I want to get it as perfect as we can. Another thing here, if this is broken off or you have any damage to this, these parts are pretty reasonable. You can buy these for 15, 20 bucks a piece at the time I'm making this video. A set of them is less than 40 bucks anyway. So if you've got one of these, you don't want to take the time to straighten it out, you can literally just pull this out and then put a brand new one in here. I'll put a link down in the description of this video with a link to Amazon where you can actually buy these parts. There are two different styles of these. Look for the ones in this particular case that this stamped piece of metal, both of these ears are folded up. Yours may have a little pin welded on it, and on this one you want to make sure that this mounting mechanism is almost parallel to each other. Some of the other ones, this is at a 45-degree angle, and the tie rods connect back here in the back instead of underneath. So make sure you get the right parts if you order these. Parts I list below will be the right part for this mower. Doesn't mean it'll be the right part for your mower. Just gonna do the same thing on this side. Pull that up out of there, and this side is bent a lot worse than that other side. Just catch that with a screwdriver and just push that little clip right off there. And again, be ready to catch this because it'll fall right out as soon as you pull that out. Our bushing came out with this one, so I'll take that off there so I don't damage that with that pole when I try to straighten it. At least they put some grease on this side. The other side didn't have any grease on it. All right, we're gonna do the same thing with this one. And here you can see that has a bend in it there. Tell you what, I'll clamp that, kind of hanging out there. Just springing back in the vise. So what I'm gonna do is just clamp it there on that crease or on that bend. All right, I'm gonna leave that hanging out there a little bit. It needs to come back this way a little bit. And then down a little bit. And if these get too bad, guys, this is a good time to think about just replacing them instead of trying to straighten them, because you can crack this metal here too. Come out here on the axle part and see if we can't bend this back that way a little bit. A little better. All right, and again, you've got your washer down here. Don't forget to put your bushing back on. The shoulder of that needs to go down towards the bottom. That's just grease on the top. Slide this up in here. You got your washer here. You got another bushing on the top there. And then we'll put our clip back on. And again, you may need to use a pair of pliers or something to get that on there. They're a little stiff. We'll reconnect our tie rod here. All right, now what I did here, I've got this axle here as straight as I can get it with this I-beam. So what we're going to do now is go over the other side and see where the other one's at. And I've just got my clip kind of stuck on here. It's not actually tight. Tie rod end is just sitting in there, and you can see this one is still bent back this way a little bit. So what we need to do then is clamp that in and bend this back that way. So I'm going to take this out of here one more time, put it on the workbench, and then hopefully we can get this pretty close. It's not that far off right now, but it is still angled out. I want it, if anything, I want it slightly angled in. What I'll do this time is clamp it in here flat. You know, instead of like this, I'm going to clamp it in here this way. And that way I can put my pipe on here. And I'm going to try to twist this a little bit like this. That should get us pretty close. Just slide that clip just partially on there and then drop that down. Got that back in there again. Again, just got my clip hanging in there. As you can see on this side now, axle line coming straight out. And we'll look at the other side. And it's now coming straight out. You know, and if anything, you want this angled so your tires are facing each other, like 2 degrees, not a lot, but you don't want them facing away from each other. So anyway, I think that's pretty good there. That one looks straight, and that one there looks pretty straight. Kind of tough to tell on camera, but by eye, it looks pretty darn straight. So put the wheels back on it here and see what I got. All right, so looking straight down that side. This wheel is facing straight. And if anything, this one's turned in a little bit. So I think we're pretty good. Something else you want to make sure you do when you get these things together is put a very generous amount of grease. You really should do this once or twice a year. When just put that in there until it literally runs out of there. You can always wipe off the excess, but it's better to have too much in there than not enough. And then there's a grease fitting down here on your wheel too. Fill these hubs full of grease. There's really no bearing in there. And guys, they do sell a bearing kit for these wheels. I'll show you here as soon as I get done with this grease. I've actually got a set that you can replace the plastic bushings that are in these wheels. All right, let me get these wheels straightened out here now, and I'll show you where I'm at now that everything's tightened back up. That wheel, pretty straight. This one here, actually angled in just a little bit, which is what you want, because if anything, these wheels are going to get bent back out again anyway, especially once you repair one of these. Those things are not as strong as they were originally. Also, I told you I'd show you this kit for the wheels. This comes with the extra hub covers, and then this kit has the flanged bearings that will replace those plastic inserts in the wheels. If you've got one of these that has, you know, some wear on the plastic inserts, these cost about as much as the plastic inserts, maybe a little bit more, but this kit comes with your covers and everything, so it's worth investing in. If you're going to replace those little plastic bushings, it's better just to put bearings in it. Anyway, I'll put a link to that kit down below. I think we're going to call this one done. Just finished cutting this whole yard, basically cutting the leaves. Turning great, tracking straight. Calling this one done. Thanks for watching, guys. Till next time.